Hey everybody, it's Hank here from Fireforce Ventures here in the Canadian satellite office with a brief overview of the Japanese Self-Defense Force Type 2 camouflage pattern, better known in the West as Japanese Flecktarn. I'll be talking about the history of the pattern and showing a little bit of footage of our take on Japanese Flecktarn in use. Bear in mind, this is a brief overview. I am by no means an expert. I recognize that as an amateur historian, there may be someone out there that knows a heck of a lot more than me. So if you have any corrections or would like to share any other information, stories, and personal experiences, please chime into the comments down below. All I do ask is that you keep it civil and don't let it devolve into a meaningless flame war. For a more detailed history on the development and operational history on this particular camo, please check out this excellent article on the Japanese Type 2 pattern by our friends over at Commando Blog. Most of the information you'll find in this video is actually going to be derived from that particular article. To learn more, you can find a link to that article in the description down below. A special shout out as well to our friends over at jsdf.us for helping us do a lot of the research involved in reproducing this pattern. Their help was absolutely invaluable. More on that later. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and if you watch all the way to the end of my long ramblings here, I promise I'll make it worth your while. Now, let's talk history. Modern camouflage development goes back to the Second World War in Japan, with the emergence of a loose-fitting ghillie-style smock or cape. This heavily resembled the palm fiber Mino capes, which were utilized throughout Japanese history by men of all social classes and occupations. The original design of these Mino capes were intended to be a water-resistant garment that was relatively easy to manufacture. You'll find that they're commonly associated with fishermen in Japan, and you will also see in photographic evidence during the Meiji period that everybody from peasants to the mighty samurai are wearing them. After encountering German-trained Chinese snipers during the early phases of the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Imperial Japanese Army recognized an urgent need for their own specially trained soldiers. And naturally, these historical Mino capes and smocks were pressed into service for sniper usage as an indigenous ghillie suit of sorts, utilizing exclusively natural materials. The use of these garments broke up the silhouette of the wearer, and local foliage was utilized in the construction of these sniper Minos. However, the post-war period saw a major hiatus in any further individual camouflage development in Japan. The post-war Japanese self-defense forces were in large part only issued with American hand-me-downs during its first few years of existence in the 1950s. However, as the Cold War progressed, Japanese fears of a hypothetical Soviet invasion grew. Japan was, after all, a geographically convenient staging area for a hypothetical Soviet invasion of the United States' West Coast. Internal unrest, particularly with leftist groups in the wake of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty of 1960, did not help the situation. As fears mounted, indigenous camouflage development started to take place again in Japan by the mid-1960s. Geography drove the development of the Mino sniper smocks in the Second World War. After all, they were fighting in the tropical environment that was the Pacific Theater, and again, geography drives the development of Japan's Cold War camouflage pattern, the Type 1 camouflage uniform, better known by the nickname Fang. It was also alternatively called the Hokkaido pattern after the northern islands of Japan. While perhaps perfect for countering Soviet forces in the northernmost reaches of Japan, it really didn't fare well in the rest of the country, which is very subtropical. In the immediate aftermath of the Cold War, Fang was made redundant in favor of the Type 2 camouflage pattern. So from Type 1 to Type 2. Which, for all intents and purposes, was just a recoloring of German Flecktarn. As such, it is known best in the West as Japanese Flecktarn, and that's what we at Fireforce Ventures actually market this pattern as. It is alternatively known as the Jietai pattern, after the indigenous name for the Japanese self-defense forces. Adopted in 1991, it brings in familiar elements of Fleck, so your standard dots of black, brown, and green on a khaki background. However, unlike German Flecktarn, it is notable for the removal of a very distinctive orange-brown spot that you'll always find in German Flecktarn. To my eye, it seems to be more of a tropical, subdued take on Flecktarn. The current Type 3 camouflage uniform, which is currently in use by the JSDF, is more or less the same as far as the camouflage goes, with just some minor adjustments to the garment cut. Just as with the use of the Mino sniper capes and the development of the Fang pattern, Japanese Flecktarn is very much in line with Japan's current defense policy, especially with an emboldened China right around the corner. It's a pattern intended to work from environments ranging from the temperate to the tropical, which defines most of Japan. So how does it actually perform? There are some limitations to what I can do being here in Western Canada, but overall this pattern does very well wherever the environment is green, and even out here in Western Canada where I was able to film some footage. We did get a lot of footage of this pattern in different levels of light and foliage, and found it to be pretty versatile. This pattern particularly excels in areas where there's a little less light, so tree lines, for example. The colors seem to just blend in with the natural shadow that the sun casts on Mother Nature. Even in areas where the sunlight was a little heavier and the foliage was perhaps not as dense, the pattern seems to have broken up my silhouette pretty effectively. Now, I haven't tested it under nods yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it performs very well at night, just given how the kind of colors are put together. Looking back at some of the footage, when I'm doing a light jog in front of the camera in areas with a bit of shade, I kind of look like a blur. And as far as camouflage goes, that's a good thing. At the time of releasing this video, Fireforce Ventures has a poly cotton ripstop lineup of this pattern available, so you can get everything including hats, tops, and bottoms in our Ranger and Combat cuts. I like the Ranger cuts in particular, given all the little details we've thrown in, including the Canadian-style cargo pockets, slot buttons, and for those that are a little extra like me, the removable knee pads are a nice touch. So if you happen to destroy or lose those knee pads in the field or whatever, the slots are compatible with just about any other integrated tactical knee pad available on the secondary market today. I'm also a huge fan of the Ranger shirt, which I hope I can do a long form video on shortly. I'm wearing one right now. It's full of features. It's got ventilated armpits, slot buttons, arm pockets with Velcro paneling, and really cool hand pockets as well at the hips. So I hope to do a long form video going over the Ranger shirt and how that all works, but that's one of my favorites. Now, I know these cuts aren't for everybody. They're a little bit extra, and I'm a little bit extra. So there is a truncated series that we also offer called our Combat Cuts that includes our UBAC or OTW style shirt. We call that our Combat shirt. This Combat lineup also includes the Mark II pant cut, which does have a lot of what the Ranger cuts have, honestly, but are a little bit of a lower profile design. If you still want to run knee pads, there are internal slots to accommodate for this, but basically it's for those that are not as extra as I am. On top of all this, we also offer a ton of hats in a variety of cuts suitable for whatever adventures you want to take this particular pattern on. So whether you're doing cool guy stuff or you're just doing a run-of-the-mill camping trip, I'm fairly confident that our cuts will suit your needs. Now, caveat. There are some rather crummy examples of Japanese Flecktarn Chinesium out there. Luckily for us, we've had the opportunity to reproduce this camo and actually do it some semblance of justice. This could not have happened if not for the fine folks over at jsdf.us and Commando Blog for their hours and hours of research assistance, references. The jsdf.us is a group of enthusiasts dedicated to educating both MilSim participants and the Anglosphere at large about some of the intricacies of current Jietai issue equipment. Some of the references that they're able to actually provide us developing this pattern included original bolts of fabric, garments, and a heck of a lot of hard-to-find photos. And a lot of what has been written for them can additionally be found at Commando Blog. That's Commando with the K. They have all kinds of articles on firearms, militaria, the outdoors, and everything in between. You can find them at commandoblog.com. That's Commando with the K, commandoblog.com. And make sure to check out all of their socials as well. And if you're interested in getting this pattern for yourself and want to make sure it's not Chinesium, consider grabbing a set from us at Fireforce Ventures. You can get yours now at fireforceventures.com. As promised, for making it to the end of this video, you can take 10% off your order of Japanese Flecktarn with the code Jietai until the 1st of September 2024. Buyers Club members with the Fireforce Ventures Buyers Club can add on their 5% discount for a total of 15% off. Pretty good deal. So simply plug in that code Jietai whenever you have any Japanese Flecktarn products in your cart. Do that at checkout, and you automatically get 10% off. Now, don't forget as well to check out our friends at Misty Mountain Supply at mistymountainsupply.com. They are a solid dealer of military surplus and the only place to get our Rhodesian brushstroke in Canada. Also, if you like hearing some nerds like me ramble on about military history, especially in regards to topics that are not as well covered, please consider checking out a podcast I co-host called the Men Among Men Stories podcast over at menamongmenstories.com, or look us up on your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to follow us on X, Instagram, and all of our other socials, especially those meta socials where we're all shadow banned and stuff. Links are in the description down below. I'm Hank from Fireforce Ventures, and thank you for watching. So can you see me?
Nah, I can't see you, Hank.
Of course you can't see me.
Nah.
Of course.
It's as if I'm talking to the bushes by myself.
Very nice. Very nice.